NBA standing, where do you guys think that everybody's going to finish at the end of the year? You can go ahead first, Amos.
I just think Nikola Jokic, he's just playing so good right now, and he's just been consistent. And I think he's just continually carrying the Nuggets, and they're just such a hard team to beat at home. And they're really one of the few teams that haven't made a trade, a big time trade, right? So they're so familiar with each other's games. They have the chemistry already. They're not having to get all these pieces together. I think I said it last week or 2 weeks ago. I think it was last week though. The Suns, just from a talent perspective, how do you get better than the Suns? How do you get better than the Suns? I don't know if you can. And so for me, just generally saying, I'll just say as of right now, the West, I see the Nuggets still leading the pack. The Mavericks are going to be an interesting case as far as meshing those two guards together. And obviously, everyone always watching the Lakers. It's going to be fascinating to see if LeBron, if AD can stay healthy. And AD's been playing really good, especially when you look at his efficiency stats when he's healthy this season. And so it's just going to be interesting to see if the Lakers can climb and be back into the playoffs, because I know LeBron cannot have another year of being playoffless. I know everyone would love that, but that's just my thoughts in the West.
Is there
Okay,
is
so
there any matchups you'd like to see in the playoffs in the West,
in the West, yes, oh for sure.
even if it's
Well,
first round?
yeah, that's fair. Well, so for example, first round, I think it's so interesting because you have teams like what the Warriors, and I don't have your graphics of the standings in front of me right now, but you have the Warriors, you have the Lakers, right? You have star power, you have guys who've been there, done it before, who have advanced. You have guys like that who could potentially go against a Denver Nuggets squad, who's been so consistent, but now all of a sudden they haven't really had a lot of success in the playoffs. And so, I would love to see a matchup like that. And Cage, I know you realize Jokic's talent. You know it, you do, but I know you haven't been basically been kind of a doubter just because of his lack of playoff success.
Yeah,
And I think I would be fascinated to see that, because you have Braun and trying to carry that Laker team through playoff success, and then you have someone like you who you know how talented he is, but you also rightly know he's kind of struggled too. So I think it's kind of prove it season. So I would love to see that matchup, the Nuggets versus the Lakers, in the first round.
and then for the East,
In the East, I would just say, I gotta still go with the Celtics. I know they've kind of been a little bit up and down recently, but I just think the Celtics are just so far and away as far as being a two-way team. Defensively, they are the best team. But I will say, Cleveland Cavaliers, man, are kind of starting to scare me a little bit. If you are a Celtic fan, yeah. I mean, they've always been really talented. We knew this, but I did read a stat a few days ago, and it's literally the Celtics and the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I can't give you the exact, don't quote me on the stat, but basically it was like an offensive efficiency stat. And both teams had the highest rating in the last like 5 or 10 years, basically. So that shows you how good, it might have been defensively, actually, now that I think about it, because obviously the Celtics are elite defensively. So it shows you how elite these two teams are playing right now. And so honestly, I was a little skeptical because they have a lot of inexperience. Donovan Mitchell's been there, but they haven't played together in the playoffs. So I'm riding with the Celtics. But man, give me that matchup right now. Those two teams, I'm happy.
Efren, what you think? What do you want to see?
Well, you know, I'm still saying this. My matchup I would want to see is LeBron against him sitting at home on his couch, because we know that they got too much hype in him. I don't care who he traded for. That guy's been trying to be in the play-in every year since he got to the Lakers, I think. But honestly, a good matchup I would want to see is, you know, I know I was talking about Dallas and Phoenix, but what about honestly Denver? I watched Denver play last night against Cleveland, and man, those guys can beat down by 10, 15 points and can make runs. Michael Porter Jr. playing playing lights out, but I don't see nobody beating that Phoenix team. I want to know how they match up with that Phoenix team uh, now that they have somebody that It don't matter if there's only 2 minutes left in the game. He could take over and do what he has to do to win a game. You understand what I'm saying? In that situation, Kevin Durant is gonna make a big piece, even though we haven't watched him yet. But he proved it in Golden State, and I think he proves it again in Phoenix. And that would be a matchup that I would want to see Denver and Phoenix in the conference finals now. And in the East, just like we were talking about earlier, Boston and Cleveland, great matchup, back and forth. Amos did have a point about them gelling together, but at the same time, the main thing right there is if Boston has a healthy Robert Williams, nobody's beating Boston in the East. But Robert Williams makes a big difference. Even with the new players that they put in,
Not even Milwaukee?
not even Milwaukee. Robert Williams makes a big difference. A big difference.
So if I could jump in there too, and you asked me about the East, I didn't mention the Bucks. I mean, they're top 3 in the East for sure. I might even have them ahead of Cleveland. I mean, I think I probably had them ahead of Cleveland, but just from an efficiency standpoint, I got to give Cleveland their respect. As far as the Bucks, though, I do agree with you, Efren, man. And you know me, I've been riding with the Bucks the last couple of years. We've seen that matchup, and I just think the Celtics just defensively, and the Bucks are really good defensively, but the Celtics just match up really well with the Bucks, and so I just think I agree. I would have to go with the Celtics. But back to the West real quick. I did say I want to see the Nuggets and Lakers as far as the matchup I want to see, but it certainly wasn't my finals prediction. So I just want to be clear. I'm not predicting.
Yeah. No, these are we already did our finals predictions 2 weeks ago. Yeah. This is just matchups you'd like to see.
No, for sure. I thought you would ask after that, so I just wanted to make sure I wasn't getting, all right.
Like I was telling you, Amos, you're like you've been rocking with Milwaukee. I just feel now with the injury to Giannis's hand, how long is he going to take the deal? He heard it right before All-Star break.
I think he's in. I just got a notification.
And he heard it again at the All-Star game.
It says he just played today. It says Giannis spin through the lane with a sweet layup. So he's playing.
He's playing right now.
That's dumb.
They're on ESPN, bro.
He shouldn't be playing.
He shouldn't be. Yeah.
That injury that he has, just wait. Somebody either in the playoffs, somebody's gonna hit him right before that. It's gonna hurt him. And I know he's a great player, but trust me, you could tell that hand was hurting him at the All-Star game. That hand was hurting him before the All-Star game when he got hurt against the Bulls. Just wait. Like, I don't know why he's playing right now.
Well, let me just jump back in real quick. And Alan, I want to give you a chance to talk because I want to hear from you. But I'll just say this last point too, going to the West. I do think, and maybe this is a bad example, but I do think the Suns, like we all agree, the Suns, just from talent perspective, are that team in the West. And if you match them up versus the Nuggets have the chemistry. The Nuggets have the team. They are the best team right now. And so would it be a decent example to compare it almost to a situation a couple years back to the Milwaukee Bucks versus the Brooklyn Nets, right? Remember when the Nets, they had got James Harden, Kyrie, KD. They were stupid talented, right? But they hadn't played together a ton, right? And so a lot of people thought, oh man, the Nets are going to go into the playoffs. They're going to beat a team like the Bucks, who had been at the time, if you guys remember, the Bucks were kind of a disappointment. And so I kind of see the parallels between that series and then potentially the Suns versus Nuggets, where people are probably going to be picking the Suns, but I could see the Nuggets with that home advantage and with the Suns not playing together fully just yet and still kind of working the kinks. Do you guys see the parallels, or am I off base with kind of that example?
Look at me. Hold on, guys. Remember you're talking about that? That's how far away the Nets were for beating the Bucks that year. That inch, that big foot. And you got to remember that. It don't matter. That talent that was on that team, if he hits that shot, the Nuggets are going to the finals. And
well, they got hurt too, Efren. Remember, they also got hurt too, right?
Yeah.
So, so we for sure. And so maybe that example is off base, but I guess I just look at it from a standpoint of the Suns. They're pretty what KJ, what are the Suns right now? +4 in the standings. And I want to say the Nets, when they had got all those pieces, they were
the Suns are +4.
So I just look at it from the standpoint of when I think it just seems like as of now, obviously the Nets they had the team a little longer, obviously, right? Where I just think it's going to take the Suns, who just got KD, who's getting healthy too. I just see it taking a second maybe to gel fully, you know. But from a talent perspective, man, like you can't beat the Suns. Alan, what do you think, Alan?
Well, I mean, I think it's going to take the Suns less time to gel than it did the Nets because of the fact that they got one guy that is going to probably be the key factor in that whole situation, and that's Chris Paul. He's the guy that's going to run that team. He's the guy that's going to make everybody happy. Whereas Kyrie, I mean, he's a great talent, but he just is all over the place with his game. He don't know if he wants to have the ball or he wants to give the ball away, and Chris is going to be.
James Harden was the point guard with that.
Yeah, you're right. And James Harden was a point guard, but he couldn't even make it work, right?
Well, they made
he
it.
couldn't
I
even
think
make it work.
In a season and a half or the one season they were together, they only played 11 games together too.
Right.
In game one,
he got hurt, but you got to remember, Efren, he didn't play good until he didn't even play good last year in Philly. So I don't think James Harden comes back. I think they lose to the Suns if they go to the finals that year. Because James Harden still wasn't himself for a year and a half. He just became James Harden again this year.
I'm not talking about them winning the finals that year. After that, I was just saying they were going to beat the Bucks. They were just, and that's the way I was looking at it. I honestly remember I had the Suns going all the way that year. I thought they were going to take it off. And then Giannis and them after they beat, of course, it was a big momentum when they beat the Nets. But that's when and Amos called it. Amos had the Bucks going all the way and winning it. But I think that's the chemistry that they got after that battle with the Nets. That, that's what, got them there. But now, like I said, I just don't see that. Like, Milwaukee is a great team. But you guys have said it. You guys let Giannis score all his points. He wants to score. You take Drew Holiday out of Middleton, they're done. And Boston can do that. I want to see if Milwaukee can take out. Look at all the players that Milwaukee has to take out for the Celtics not to be able to score points. Now, Bogdan is a good point guard. Another one, Marcus Smart.
Well, like you said, Brogdon's the key to.
Yeah, but Smart's not a scorer though, bro. He's a defender and a facilitator at best.
But the thing is, Marcus Smart can score in certain times. Like if he has, because before that's how they were winning the games last year. Marcus Smart was having great games during the playoffs. Even though he was playing defense good, he was still scoring 20-something points. So,
did he average that much?
I think he averaged like 15 to 18. But like what you said,
I was going to say it was more like 13 to 16, something like that.
The reason why the Celtics sucked last year in the finals was because of Brogdon. Kind of to Alan's point, Chris Paul is going to be the person who leads. Like I said before, he's going to be the reason they either make it to the finals and win or don't make it.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. And so, to get back to that, I guess I'll just stay in the West real quick, okay? So for me, I really like Denver, and they showed something last night against Cleveland. I'm just like, wow, they walked right in there and they owned that arena. I mean, from the tip off until the final buzzer, they owned that arena. And Michael Porter, if they could get that kind of production out of him the rest of the year, that team is probably going to end up with the best record in the league. Because I don't see anybody really beating them. But that's the regular season. Are they going to be able to to mirror that in the postseason? Okay, so I really like that. The matchup that I would like to see in the West, and I don't care if it's an early round or mid round, but I would really be interested to see the Clippers and the Suns face off, because I think they have, other than a true big man or a dominant big man, the Clippers match up. They can match up with Durant and the other kid. What's his name?
Devin Booker.
Devin Booker. Yeah, they can match up, and I mean. And that puts a lot of pressure on Chris Paul to score then, or Ayton to try to dominate the key. I would really like to see that matchup.
He can't have those 10-6 games against them either. He's going to have to be
no, absolutely. I think But I think that would be an incredible matchup in the early rounds, or like in the first or the second round. That'd be an incredible matchup. But because I want to see if Kawhi still has something in the tank, and that would be the perfect opportunity for him if he could shut down Durant. Man, he would solidify his legacy.
Top 3 defender all time.
Yeah, all time. And then the team that
Better than
really kind of
Scotty.
intrigues me, and you're probably going to laugh about this, but I think that they're just kind of they're kind of like Kansas City, the Chiefs in football. They kind of just under the radar. Nobody's really paying attention. I mean, they're talking about their first playoff appearance in 30 years, but the Kings they might actually surprise some people.
Like the
They might
bees.
actually surprise some people,
Alan,
I just
Alan, where are you from, Alan?
I'm from Sacramento.
Like the bees.
Okay.
Like
I'm
the
from
bees.
Sacramento, and I've never, since I left, I've never really rooted for them. And I'm not saying that I'm pulling for them, but I just think that they're interesting because they've got a lot of pieces on that team. A lot
do.
of pieces. Even
And
though they've traded a lot of guys, they could surprise somebody in the first round. Think about this: if Golden State is able to creep down into the 7-6 spot, they could match up with they could see themselves going to Sacramento to play in the first round, and that would be a major upset.
Hey, Efren, before you say that, Efren, you were right. It says Giannis just hurt his knee against the Heat, and he's out for the rest of the game.
Hurt his knee?
Yes.
Damn.
And for me, like I tell you, what we're talking about right now, and that's Sacramento. Man, they have a lot of great pieces. I've been watching them play. I went to a couple of home games last year. Shout out to some of the subscribers that are Sacramento fans. But just know that team, if whoever they match up with, they can score points. They're gonna go, and that's gonna be you need a good defense to stop that Kings team. Because I've been watching them play. Man, they can light up the scoreboard. Yesterday, they put 131 on Portland.
Yeah.
Of course,
and
Portland
lost, didn't they? And they lost.
No,
Did they pull it out? Did they pull it out?
Lost. Portland lost.
Okay.
Okay. Kings won. But they played against the Lakers this year. They played against Golden State, and they beat Golden State and put up a lot. So
I know. That's what I'm saying. They've kind of gone under the radar. I mean, everybody's talking about them making the playoffs for the first time in a long time, but they're definitely a quality team. I still think that Denver is head and shoulders above everybody until we see what Phoenix is going to do. I mean, you got to remember, Durant hasn't stepped on the court yet. We don't know what's going to happen once that takes place. So, if it works out the way I think everybody kind of sees it, envisions it working out, it's going to be really, really tough to beat that team. But I'm not gonna. It's like when we did our predictions. It's hard for me. I want to say them, but I'm not sure that they're going to be there at the end. To be honest with you.
Just say it one time for your Sacramento people. Light the beam, baby. Light the.
What were you gonna say, Amos?
No, so I was going to ask Efren, who has the longest streak in sports without a playoff appearance currently? Is it the Kings or is it the Browns? I'm trying to think myself. I'm spacing.
The Browns went to the playoffs 3 years ago
with Baker Mayfield. They beat the Steelers.
So then, that's right. That's the one. Okay, yep. So that's the Kings. So the Kings have the longest streak then currently in the four.
Because
they do.
The Mariners finally made the playoffs. That's why.
You know what? I was honestly gonna let that slide.
Hey, Amos, don't be ashamed of nothing. Your team is going to be a team to reckon with for the next decade, bro.
Anyways, Alan, I'm gonna need you to get to the
bro.
Alan,
they're going to be a team to reckon with for the next decade. And you think about this: they can pick up another bat to go along with Rodriguez. Oh my God, that team is going to be unreal.
despite that
But
little
we're not
chihuahua
talking
in my
about
ear right now.
baseball. We're not
Loser,
talking about
Poppy.
baseball. Let's get back on track to where we were. All right.
Yeah, Alan. So now you're
Okay.
doing the Eastern Conference.
So on the east side, I agree with you guys. You E and Amos, Boston is head and shoulders above everybody. I think the reason that Giannis was playing tonight is that they're so close to overtaking Boston. They want that home court advantage, and that's why he's playing. And myself personally, he's a throwback to the '90s and the Jordan era. He's a guy that's going to play whether he's hurt or not. He's not one of these dudes that wants to be managed and sat. He wants to be on the court because he knows how vital he is to his team. Okay.
Yeah, but
So it's unfortunate.
But that was going to hurt him because he knew he was going in with this injury. The thing is, it's going into this injury, having this injury, and playing like that, and sitting out just to rest. Giannis has a real injury that they're going to need him in the playoffs more than they need him for home court advantage.
Yeah, but
all you need to
did
do
you
is
hear what
win
he
one game.
said? It wasn't his hand, it was his knee. So, we don't know how bad his wrist was hurt. Now it's a matter of figuring out how bad his knee is hurt, But I still got to give it to him because he wants to be on the court and he's thinking about that home court advantage. He's thinking about that number 1 seed in the West.
But
now you guys know that I was picking Milwaukee to represent, but if he can't go, then that puts them way down on the bottom of the list. So I would have to say, Boston is probably going to take that now. But I'll tell you, there's a couple of matchups that I think would be kind of interesting. New York, the Knicks, despite the fact that they've been so horrible for the longest time, I would like to see them go up against Philadelphia. I think that they would actually probably match up pretty good, and it probably would be a good 6-7 game series if they did play. Again, I think Cleveland, along with Boston, has been the most consistent team all year, and even more so than Boston, I think, because they have had, I think their longest losing streak was 4 games. Is it 4 games? What is it?
I don't know for sure.
But I think they've got the least amount as far as games lost in a row of any team in the East, and so they've played consistently all year long, and they have no experience in the playoffs, but they do have some pieces that really work. They got a 1, they got a 2, and I think they even have a 3. I think is he a rookie this year or was he a rookie last year? The kid from Purdue.
No, he's a rookie this year.
Is a rookie this year? I think that if he can step his game up.
Kid from
Evan Mobley.
Oh no, he's a sophomore. He was a rookie last year.
Oh,
He was
you're
a
talking
rookie
about
last year. Okay.
Yeah,
I think if he can step his game up, that team could make some noise. They could definitely make some noise. And Philadelphia played last night, and they were getting their butt kicked in the first half, and they came back and won that game. And I'm telling you, they're going to go on a run too, because that's just what they do. Doc is going to have that team, firing, until the play. They're going to go to sleep, and they're probably going to get knocked off in the first or the second round.
I think,
honestly,
and I don't want to. I'm going to predict it here right now. I know we were saying the Boston, Milwaukee. Honestly, I think it's Philadelphia goes 4 for 4, making the championship game, and loses it in the finals.
Hey, I picked Philly to go to the finals. Don't be taking my shit. You were Cleveland. You were Cleveland with Allen 2 weeks ago.
Hey, I don't know, but the thing is, I feel like Philly's gonna go and just lose again. And that's
I didn't pick them to win it. I just picked them to be in the final. I didn't pick them to win it. I just picked them to be in the final. I actually had Milwaukee coming out of the East. Remember?
Well, I'm gonna do.
Why don't you go ahead? Why don't you go ahead, KJ, and you can break yours down now.
For me, I'm gonna go my my Western Conference. I got a lot of matchups I want to see. I want to see the number 1. Let's go back to Durant and versus the Nuggets. The Nuggets right now are ranked the second best in terms of defensive rating. So I didn't know that. So I think they could possibly handle Durant. It's just offensively, can they get there? I don't. Like I said, I don't believe in Jokic in the playoffs, and I haven't seen much from anybody else on that team that can show me that when it comes to like what Efren said, when it come or Allen, um, when it comes down to that last 2 minutes, do they have somebody that can score besides Jokic? They don't. I mean, I haven't seen anything on that team. But if I'm going to who I want to see play, I want to see the Suns play the Pelicans. I want that rematch from last year. Last year it was great. Pelicans barely made it from what? They barely made it out the play in, and then they took it to what, 6 games or something without Zion?
Seven.
Yeah.
They took it to 7? Oh yeah, they did. And that was when I was like, oh yeah, the Suns are not making the finals. But I really want to see that matchup. I want to see Zion versus Durant. I want to see Jose Alvarado versus Chris Paul again. I want to see if DeAndre Ayton could. I don't know who's better, honestly, DeAndre Ayton or Jonas Valanciunas at this point, because DeAndre Ayton's motor is just too low. And then who else I got? I want to see the Grizzlies versus the Warriors if they can make it. If not, I want to see them play the Timberwolves again. Because, I mean, if you guys don't remember, the Timberwolves were up every game in that series last year and just couldn't finish it. Now they have a veteran point guard in Mike Conley. I don't think he's better than D'Lo, but he's more accustomed to playoffs success when he was with Memphis. And I mean, I'm not saying they have the same personnel or anything, but he's played in Memphis. He knows the crowd. He's accustomed to that atmosphere. Plus, I don't believe in Memphis. And then
KJ,
huh.
if I can jump in for 2 seconds, real quick, to play devil's advocate, and this is just me asking you a question. So you say you don't have huge confidence in the Nuggets offense in a playoff series per se. Is it more in general, which I assume is kind of the case, or against the Suns? Because I guess my thinking, again, just more just play devil's advocate. While I do agree, I think a lot of people would be concerned as far as who is going to be that elite shooter next to the Joker. When you look at the Suns, they don't really have a lot of good defenders currently. Their defense is a lot to be desired. So I could see
It's more of
the
an
Suns.
all around
Okay.
all around defense. But for me, yeah, it's somewhat general offense, but against the Suns you have all that offense there, especially if DeAndre Ayton is playing good and Damian Lee is hitting threes. I don't know if they can outplay everybody on the Suns. That's what I meant.
I'd love to see Aiden's stat. And I don't know this. I'd love to see Aiden's stats versus Jokic because I could just see him. Because, like you said, he's really inconsistent. And I could just see him kind of struggling because I know he's not. When you're playing the Joker, you're moving constantly. He's the main focus of offense. So Aiden's not going to be able to sit back on defense, right?
Yeah.
So I would know his standard stats. His average
is 20 points, 12 rebounds, and 1 steal in his 10 games versus Jokic in his career.
Okay,
20
so
and 12. Like I said, that's what he needs to be if they want to beat him.
Facts.
And then my last one that I want to see in the West, I mean, I want to see Sacramento versus the Lakers. I think that's a great rivalry that we haven't seen since 2001, and I want to see LeBron, and I really like De'Aaron Fox. I liked him more than Lonzo Ball coming out of college. I think he's a great point guard. I think I don't know if top 10 I'd have to go through, but I think he could definitely fit in for top 10 point guard.
Bullcrap.
Huh? Bullcrap. And then in the East, I'd like to see the 2 New York teams play. I think they're about comparable in terms of talent-wise. I think New York may have a better better starting lineup, but I think the Nets are all well-rounded. And then the other matchup I want to see is the Heat versus either the Bucks or the Celtics because I think we could beat them. I'm tired of both those teams.
The surprise team on the East, the Chicago Bulls.
The Chicago Bulls are the 11th seed. You're not even a playing team. I don't want to hear it. You're a Wembanyama series. That's what you're trying to win. But yeah, like I said, I got the Sixers.
Yes.
I got the Sixers winning the East, and like I said, I think I got the Grizzlies winning. I don't have confidence in them, but I think they're the most capable and they have the most playoff. They have more playoff success than the Nuggets, and I mean, unless the Suns gel perfectly in these next 23 games and going into the playoffs, I think the Grizzlies are the favorite besides the Nuggets.
Can I just say something real quick too? I think I might have had the Bucks losing to the Celtics too in my Eastern Finals. But man, just being honest with you guys, with all these injuries, when you really think about the Bucks, if you go back to the championship years, I mean, Efren, you said it best. I mean, everyone knows this. Literally, KD was 2 inches away from literally winning the series, and so not to mention like they won some close ass games, and Drew Holiday, he played his ass off, right? And
Wasn't
as you guys,
Middleton hurt? They missed
in
Middleton last year against the Celtics.
no, yeah, last year, right. But I'm speaking for the championship year. So the championship year, I just thought they played above themselves because Middleton was hitting those clutch shots. Drew Holiday, he wasn't just that defensive guy who gave you just enough offense, right? He was having some big time performances as well. And so I just feel like now, 2 years later, to your point, KJ, Middleton, he's been he's dealt with some injuries as well as this year. Giannis is banged up. Drew Holiday is 2 years older. I want to say he's about 32. And then they just aren't as deep as they were. And so I just feel like the Bucks are good because of their talent and because of their star power. But I just feel like not that they're getting worse,
Celtics
but
are younger, pretty much.
And when you're playing every 2 days, 3 days, that matters, especially when you're hurt and broke down. So I'm just not very confident in Milwaukee at all going forward, especially now that we're finding out Giannis is hurt. And I just think the Celtics and the Cavs, but the Cavs for me, I can't jump them up past the Celtics just yet. Just not yet. I won't do it.